So without further ado, I am so honored to introduce my friend Shayne Gilbert. I met Shayne when we were both volunteering at the newly renovated Phillip Street Play Area back in 2008. Even then, I was very inspired by her, and I knew she'd be a perfect fit for this forum. Shayne thrives in creating connections and building community. Before it became the Seaport, Shayne created the Cyber District, a community of artists and technologists in the old warehouses just beyond the Children's Museum. A casual lunch with venture capitalists and entrepreneurs led to the founding of the Nantucket Conference, an annual gathering of investors, founders, and executives where the connections are valued for their strategic and personal worth. From the Nantucket Conference came the Convergence Forum, a similar community of innovators in healthcare and life sciences. Passionate about solving inequalities in the workplace and the community, Shayne founded Campseekers. Let me just put this up. A national network of childcare providers developed to help alleviate the stress of finding school break solution for working parents. The network was ultimately acquired by Bright Horizons. Today, Shayne also serves as the executive director of the Canadian Entrepreneur of New England. Her personal passions include STEM education, specifically for girls, for which she created the Girls Hackathon. Shayne has also enjoyed working within the Beacon Hill community with involvement in both Myrtle Street Playground and the Phillip Street Playground, as I mentioned. She also supports various theater and arts initiatives. Shayne is anchored not only by the many connections among these communities, but also by family and friends. Her most important anchors are her husband, Bob, and her daughter, Marley, who give her the love and support to make the connections and build these many communities. So thank you so much, Shayne, for being with us tonight and to be so flexible to meet with us on Zoom. I will turn it over to you. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thanks so much, everybody. I'm thrilled to be here today. I have a presentation, so I'm going to share my screen right now. Let's see if we can make that happen. Great. Can everybody see that okay? Terrific. So the topic for tonight's discussion is who's your anchor, creating trust, connections, and community in a turbulent world. Let me see. Oops. Okay, great. Before we begin, I'd like to thank Cindy Sullivan and the Beacon Hill Women's Forum for inviting me to lead tonight's conversation. As Cindy mentioned, we've known each other over the years as we've raised our daughters, and I'm thrilled to see the amazing young women that they've become, and I can't believe they'll be off to college soon. We've been connecting community for a long time, as Cindy mentioned, with the Phillip Street Play Area, and it has always been wonderful to work with you, Cindy. So thank you for reaching out to me for this conversation this evening. I find that the best remedy for a cold day is often a hot cup of tea. And as we talked about earlier, I hope that many of you are enjoying the teas from Extra Special Teas. As I mentioned, it's an amazing company based in the Berkshires with a mission to help engage adults with special needs to reach their potential. extraspecialties.org. Certainly check it out if you get a chance. I'd also like to thank Eileen at J. McLaughlin for her help in distributing our special tea gifts. Eileen and her team are always welcoming to friends in the neighborhood, and I appreciate all that they bring to our community. Now let's get started. So tonight I'd like to tell you a little bit about me, how my family shaped my loyalty and commitment to building and sustaining community among relatives, friends, and now frequently business colleagues. I'll then share a few examples of the communities that I've helped build and why I built them. Then we'll talk a little bit about the last couple of years, what I call the fractured world in which we currently live, and how it has redefined relationships and created new anchors in our community. But first, let's see if we can get this to work. I'd like to get to know each other a little bit more. We were chatting a little bit before we got started. Earlier, I mentioned that Extra Special Teas is in the Berkshires. For the last couple of years, the Berkshires, which is that place you'll find at the other end of the pike if you don't go to the Cape or you don't go north to the mountains, it's been our refuge, and it's my favorite spot to vacation with my family, my husband and daughter. It's quiet and it's peaceful, and I really love it out there. either in chat or in Zoom, or if you'd like to just say a few words. Can some folks share their favorite spot to vacation? Maybe in the past or the present, or where they hope to go in the future, and perhaps who you'd like to vacation with. Does anybody want to share? Cindy, I see you posting. I know you like to go down to Florida. Is that your favorite place? Oh, you might be on mute.
My favorite place is actually Scraggy Neck down the Cape in Katamet over the Bourne Bridge. We love it, and it has been huge refuge for us too.
And you go with family and friends, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's great. Anybody else have a favorite place that they want to share?
I think we're adding notes in the chat for you to see.
Okay,
So
great.
I like to go to Miami.
Miami. Love Miami. Were you able to get there at all over the last couple of years?
We usually go every year, but no, we didn't go last year. But I love seeing the Art Deco and buildings, and just a really fun, different place to visit.
It is. It is. And Great Diamond Island in Maine, with your grandchildren, is that far north in Maine? I'm not sure where Great Diamond Island is.
It's Portland.
Portland. Oh, great.
It's off
So
the coast of
it's a
Portland.
bit of a ride, but not too bad.
We usually go on the Downeaster, but at this moment, we're not doing that.
Hopefully soon. Hopefully by the summer, we'll be doing that again. I see Bermuda. Hi, Sandra. How are you? Have you been to Bermuda lately, or you hope to go there soon? Might be on
It's
mute.
on my list once we can travel freely again. I miss Bermuda.
I'm sure. And I also see Puerto Rico. We were there a few years ago. Beautiful island, very kind, wonderful people who, when we visit, really enjoy that. And I see South Carolina. Pronounce the island for me, because I know somebody else had mentioned this. I think it's becoming a popular destination. Kiowa?
It's Kiowa Island, and it's outside Charleston, which in and of itself is a really awesome place to visit. So you can go to Charleston, spend a couple of days, go over to Kiowa, ride your bike on the beach. It's just it's an escape.
It's a place I
It's
want to
lovely.
visit. I've heard a couple people say really good things about it. I see Naples, Florida. Anywhere new? I agree on that. Paris? Would love to go to Paris. It's been many years since I've been there. And I hope to get there again, maybe next year. Or Italy, Europe, Italy, Martha's Vineyard. We'll talk a little bit about Nantucket. Martha's Vineyard is another favorite place of mine. And we've got Nantucket. We'll talk more about Nantucket in a little bit. And then Hawaii and St. John. It's really nice to see all these places that we've either been to or that we like to go to. And I see that some people are chatting that they've been there or they like to go there as well. Feel free to go ahead and continue to make those connections in the chat. So I'd like to start. Let's see. There we go. I'd like to start with the importance of family. So I grew up in a big family, a good sized family. I have 4 siblings in total. That's a picture of us when we were a little bit younger, maybe a lot younger. I have 7 aunts and uncles, not including their spouses, 20 first cousins, and too many second, third, and fourth cousins to count that I connect with on a regular basis. When my daughter was young, she thought everyone she met was somehow related, because often they were. We had lots of get-togethers, and those were my happiest times. And so my love of family, friendships, connecting, laughing, enjoying the company of one another was what really shaped me very early on to say that connecting with others is a dominant gene in my DNA. A few examples that Cindy touched upon earlier, and I'll talk about in a little bit more detail, are first the cyber district, back in the early days of the internet. And yes, I can claim being part of those very early days. We heard a lot of talk about Silicon Valley and San Francisco, yet there was no term to define the group of intrepid technologists and design folks and artists who were shaping the internet here in the Boston area. So many of us were based in the Seaport, so I coined the term cyber district and got us together on a regular basis for talks and bowling and lots of other fun activities. As Cindy mentioned, one of my personal passions is STEM. STEM programs to empower girls. I had started the Girl Hackathon working with, among other partners, Boston Public Schools to create a day of coding for girls. It was fantastic and incredibly inspiring to see a group of girls happily coding together. For those of you who know that I hate disadvantages and I work a lot in tech, I decided to apply technology to another area that I had personal passion. You might be starting to see a trend here. And that was the fact that women are still paid less than men for the same jobs. I think even more so now in the last couple of years. As a working parent, I knew that one of the reasons is because we are also often the primary caregiver. So I created the national network that Cindy mentioned earlier called Campseekers to make it easier for working parents to find school break care. It was a longer process than I had expected for those of you who have started companies and a bit frustrating. But I'm happy to say that the network of community that I was able to build was often small mom and pop organizations. And as Cindy mentioned, it was ultimately purchased by Bright Horizons. The network was purchased by Bright Horizons, so that was a great exit for me. I then promised my family that I would take, after Campseekers, I would take at least 6 months before I took on any other projects. Well, it lasted about 6 weeks. I wanted to do more work in nonprofit, and an opportunity came about to amplify a cross-border network of entrepreneurs and company founders as the part-time executive director of the Canadian Entrepreneurs in New England. I started the position about 2 years ago, and I absolutely love it. Canada is an amazing country with wonderful people, and I'm thrilled to be deepening the connections between both countries. So that's a lot of community building, but those aren't the only significant communities that I've helped build, because many years ago, right out of business school, I had an amazing business plan, or so I thought, and I decided to raise money to turn it into an amazing business. So I started to reach out to the investor community, to venture capitalists and others, and I'll never forget a conversation which was a turning point for me with an institutional investor, a venture capitalist, who told me something like this. Let's get real. You're a woman trying to start a company. No investor will fund you because we all know that you will want to get married and get distracted raising kids, which makes you too much of an investment risk when compared to a man who will devote all of his time to building the company. It was a real eye-opening experience for me when he shared those thoughts with me. So I put my beautiful business plan into a folder and decided that I would create another community which would bring together investors and company founders and executives all on an island to talk about how they could work together. And that became the Nantucket Conference. It's a catchy name and a great location. I know somebody's there right now. I absolutely love the island. I remember speaking to folks at the White Elephant 20 years ago and telling them that they should work with me because I would be running this conference on Nantucket forever. And I'm really excited to say that we will be going back. We had to take a brief hiatus because of the pandemic on the mainland, as we call it, in Chatham, but we are going back next fall. We've had amazing folks join us over the years. Some of them were Eric Schmidt, who's the former CEO of Google, who flew in on his private plane during a horrible storm when the Eastern Seaboard was shut down to join us at the conference. Also, a young startup closed a $7 million round of funding with an investor. They met at Nantucket, only to sell their company a few years later for close to $1 billion. We've had some great successes come out of the conference. The connections, the stories, the impact of the conference has been amazing, and it's because of a few basic truths that I want to share with you about building community. Everyone who attends is of equal caliber to everyone else. We don't diminish who somebody is, or we don't try to speak more of somebody just because of their successes. We're all people. We're all trying to help one another. That's the common mindset. How can I help you, rather than how can you help me? We focus on the person and not the company. And many folks have attended for 10 or more years, going from company to company, becoming serial entrepreneurs, becoming company founders who sell their company and become investors. And most importantly, we care about people first. Also, I'd like to say that I get to work with my sister to run the Nantucket Conference and also the Convergence Forum, which for me personally is my best gift of all. But if that's not enough, about 5 years into Nantucket, when we were trying to bring together folks in tech and the life sciences, an amazing woman on our advisory board, because women are great connectors, by the name of Alison Taunton-Rigby, who's often known as the godmother of biotech, quietly took me aside, and it is her way, and said, "This is great, but life sciences folks are different, so you need to start another conference." So we did. We created the Convergence Forum in 2004. Similarly sized, small groups are best for connections and community. And following the same tenets of the Nantucket Conference, we brought together life science folks to share their ideas, make connections, and build communities. It's been fantastic. And we have run both conferences live, believe it or not, in person throughout the pandemic. And in the case of Convergence this year, just when we thought it wouldn't become more challenging, it took place in October, and the Quasit did not have power. So we ran the conference not only during the pandemic, but without power. I love this quote from a 2021 participant, which really sums up what we do. She said, "Kindness. About this year's conference, I've observed a few lone people walking into the dining room for a meal or the wine tasting, not knowing very many at the conference, and a table guest, a stranger, invited them to join them. People were not left to sit alone. People offered to share their heated rooms with those that had rooms without heat. It was really extraordinary to, one, have people still show up to my conference during a pandemic without any power, driving all the way to the Quasit to participate, and have them all there, and then to be kind and gracious and supportive, because we all want to connect and we all want to be part of the community." And for me, what many would have said was the most horrible of all circumstances for a conference was actually truly extraordinary, and probably one of the highlights because of the people who were there and because what they did to be there and to be part of it. So just wanted to share that, and as to what we do with community and how really, in a really tough time, people came together. So I'd like to talk now a little bit about the lessons I've learned about how to build community first. First, treat people as you would treat yourself. My grandfather taught me this. It didn't matter who it was. He could meet someone on the street, and within minutes, he would create a personal connection. Everyone, the person standing next to you on the T, your work colleague, your server at Starbucks, everyone is a person with feelings, aspirations, and challenges. I've learned that if you respect those around you and treat them like you would like to be treated, it comes back many times over, and it is the very heart of being part of a community. And most people do want to connect. Anyone who spends time with me knows how much I enjoy finding the connection with another person. It could be as a parent, it could be as a business person, as a theater lover, so many different things, but there is a connection there. You just have to you just have to give yourself the opportunity to find it. I know it's hard for some people to make those connections. I look instinctively for that person at the edge of the room because it's easy for that person in the middle to get all of the attention to connect. I like to reach out to that quiet person and find the connection because it may be hard for them to do the same, but the connection is there. How can I help? I mentioned that earlier. They're really powerful words. We can help one another in some way if we just take the time to ask. So how do you survive in a fragmented world? For me, I'm feeling a little bit like I'm living in a Stephen King novel, right? Kind of everything that's going on. And I'm not even sure he can make it up. Like sometimes don't you just step back and go, my gosh, I can't believe, walking down the street, seeing kids at a playground wearing masks or at school. It's a crazy time that I don't think anybody could have imagined a few years ago. So here's what I've discovered. I see the people around me very differently than I used to. I would breeze through this neighborhood, not really attempting to reach out or to connect with anyone except in special circumstances. I was busy. I was doing my own thing, happily so. But over the last 2 years, the people who have become most important to me are my neighbors. When I couldn't see anyone else, we would gather on our stoops late Sunday afternoons, carefully distanced, but very connected, seeing other faces, hearing other stories, knowing they were there for me and I was there for them. That's what has helped me through these crazy times. Remember my comment a few minutes ago about that quiet person in the corner? It's easy to overlook those around you. So surviving in a fragmented world means acting as a catalyst, reaching out to others and discovering the connection, taking that time to connect. In our little alley where we live on Beacon Hill, we get together for Tree Day every winter. It's a long-standing tradition that goes back many, many, many years. This photo that I have here in the corner is Tree Day 2021, and I absolutely love this photo. Some of our neighbors have lived in Century Hill Place, which is where I lived, since the 1960s. Our ages range from 1 to 80 plus. We have someone there who actually moved away from Century Hill Place, but still comes and spends time with us. And we are all closely connected to one another because we support each other. And we have found common interests in the most challenging times. We're parents and we're children and dog parents and doctors and lawyers, but we all have those common interests and we all help one another. I've gotten to know them all so much more, and I am grateful for that opportunity that has presented itself in this fragmented world. So many of my anchors now are my neighbors. How do you find your anchors? First, trust. And I would add connect for me and perhaps for others. It's hard to admit how challenging these times are, but if you can trust to share both the challenges, I feel lousy today. Anybody feel that? I feel really lousy today. And the opportunities, let's go for a walk. I don't think I've walked as much on the Esplanade as I have in the last couple of years, and your new anchors will begin to emerge. Second, proximity. Working with the Canadians at Scene at the Canadian Entrepreneurs in New England, it was incredibly hard for many of them when the borders closed and they couldn't visit family or friends or colleagues. Imagine a border closing and you can no longer visit your parents. It was incredibly isolating. So the Scene, because of the proximity of fellow Canadians, became a new place to find those anchors. We were often online, occasionally getting together, but sharing stories, and I was learning so much more about hockey and the cottages that everybody goes to in the summertime in Canada and their connections, both personal and professional. And the proximity here made those connections easier because we were all in one place. Finally, reciprocity. We're still going through some really tough times, although I believe things will be getting better soon. So we need to reach out, connect, be there for one another. If there's one thing that I hope we take away from this fragmented world, it's that our connections to one another are more important than ever. And it's really important to reach out and stay connected with our anchors. So in closing, I'd like to say thanks to the Beacon Hill Women's Forum for continuing to do what you do, which is to be a catalyst for connections in our neighborhood. I hope that everybody gets to vacation in their favorite spots soon. But in the meantime, I encourage you all to make new connections, find a new anchor, make a point to engage a bit more in your community, and it will help immeasurably in these fragmented times. I'm happy to take any questions or observations or listen to any other stories that folks might want to share now. Thank you.
Well, that was incredible. I actually wrote down a couple things that you said. They were really nice thoughts. So new lens, a couple different perspectives. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Oh, I can't see. Shayne, I think I'm just looking at your screen.
Here, let me stop share so we can see everybody again. There we go.
All right. Well,
does anybody want to share a connection that they have made or have any thoughts or suggestions for what they'd like to do? Do I find that my anchors have changed? I have a greater appreciation for the people who are close to me. I also have found it's interesting in business when you're talking to somebody on Zoom and they're in their bedroom, you develop a whole new relationship with them, right? In some ways, like it's kind of, at first it was very off-putting, right? That I tried the whole green screen thing, tried to do a bunch of different things. It humanized us, I think, a lot more to see us in our homes on Zoom. It hasn't left, the desire to see people in person hasn't gone away, but I have a new appreciation. So I would say, certainly my neighbors, people who are close to me, have become more of my anchors, but there are also people that I work with that I've become much more personally connected with. There's conversations that have started out talking about business and specific purpose, and they've become listening to somebody going through a very tough or challenging time and just being there for them and just reflecting on it. So I think anchors in the business world have changed also. Ironically gotten maybe a little bit closer because we've all we're all living through this together.
Thank you, Shayne.
Shayne, can I ask you what your business plan was way back when you were coming out of college, or is that too personal?
No, it's fine. It was actually graduate school, and
Okay.
and yeah, it's going to sound so obvious now, but these, I date myself, but these were, this was before the internet had really gotten started, and the idea was an interactive apparel catalog where you could go in and you could kind of type in your dimensions, your sizes, and then you could see what you were wearing virtually, which doesn't sound that unusual right now, but very, very early on. The interesting thing is, number one, I didn't have any experience in retail, and I certainly didn't have any experience in apparel. Probably if I had experience in either one of those areas or apparel manufacturing, I never would have thought of the idea. And again, you could kind of see over time how that has come to be. So that was the business plan. I still have it somewhere. I remember I made sure that it had a red cover so that it would capture people's attention on the, you always think about like investors having a big pile of business plans, or they used to anyway. And I was like, okay, well, mine's going to have a red cover so that people will notice it.
That's amazing.
I think you might be on mute. Let's see if I can.
There. Oh,
There we go.
hi. Sorry.
Hi.
I was just starting to say, Shayne, I applaud you, and I know we all do, for the incredible work that you've done. And as you say, you started out, and it kind of still is a man's world, and you've made so many inroads and paths for women and girls, and it's so important. It's really terrific.
Thank you. And I think that what, for me, it's finding mentors, especially women. There was a woman, I don't know if anybody knows her, but by the name of Sally Jackson, who used to be a very well-known PR and communications person. She helped launch Sam Adams, among other things. And she was my first mentor when I was getting started. And by being a mentor, it sometimes meant that I would, go over to her office in the Back Bay, and I would just share my ideas with her and just observe some of the work that she was doing. So I think we all play a role in both being a mentor and being a mentee. And, always you can use the common expression of paying it forward, kind of thinking about how you can help somebody else and connect with somebody else. So I think the role of mentor and mentee is incredibly important. And certainly I've been inspired by so many others.
Hi, Shayne. Thank you for coming. This has been really awesome. I've loved hearing about your work and what you're doing now. My name's Gracie. I'm a recent mover to Beacon Hill in September, and really enjoying getting to know everyone. And I was curious, especially with your story about your neighbors, what do you recommend for like folks who are new to the neighborhood, kind of moving in? I've been really impressed and surprised and sort of heartened by how much Beacon Hill does feel like a community and a neighborhood. And when I attend, women's forum events or civic association events, folks are really open and welcoming. But I'm curious, like, other than, going up to your neighbors' doors and knocking on them with like a batch of brownies and saying hi, what do you recommend for forming those connections, especially as the pandemic continues to ramp up and, you don't know people's levels of comfort with closeness and such?
Yeah, we're lucky in Century Hill Place because we have this kind of common private, it's a little gated common area. So we meet outdoors a lot. I would build on that kind of knocking on doors and bringing brownies idea and become a catalyst. And that means, maybe as the weather gets a little bit nicer, if you have, if you have a roof deck, or if there's a place where you all can connect. For us, it was just it was just kind of sending out a text, are you around? Let's get together for a glass of wine on a Sunday afternoon. We've done a couple of different things. And remember, our ages range from 1 to 80 plus. So we've had movie night where we've brought out we've brought out a screen and we have shown movies in the alley, and we've invited not only, if you all come by, well, no, see, I can't, if you ever see a movie night, you're welcome, you're all welcome to come by. We've done that. We did, for the first time this year for Halloween, Halloween was always my favorite night on Beacon Hill, and it's just been different over the last couple of years because of the pandemic, and that's been really hard. So again, we see this new generation coming in. My daughter was the youngest, and now she's a junior in high school, and so now we have little kids. We have a 1-year-old, like a 4-year-old, maybe a 7-year-old, 6 or 7-year-old, and we have a baby due at the end of this week to be joining us as well, which is super exciting. So for Halloween this year, because the kids couldn't do much, trick-or-treating, we did a scavenger hunt where we hid jack-o'-lanterns with little treats in the area. I know, Cindy, we did a lot of fun things connecting with the Phillips Street play area back in the day. And I think it's being responsive, thinking about obviously the age and what people are interested in, and we're gearing a little bit more to a younger generation. We have dinner under the stars every spring where we have a potluck dinner. We bring out tables and chairs. Now y'all are going to want to come listen to your place, which would be great. But and we all sit. We literally have a potluck dinner, and it's fantastic. The dogs are running around. We're all enjoying little nibbles from everybody. So I think it's becoming a catalyst, thinking about something that's interesting to you. Obviously, book groups, kind of not only being involved in the associations and the other organizations, which I think is fantastic, but also finding your connections. And it doesn't have to be 50 people. It doesn't have to be 10 people. It could be 3 people or 4 people, because you'd be really surprised. 3 people will lead to 6 people, will lead to 10 people. And so I'd really just encourage that. I also want to shout out to all the many store owners and people who work in all the different shops on Charles Street. They're amazing, and I was just so worried for them at the beginning of the pandemic. I saw a lot of them shuttering, and I'm really sad to see Black Ink leaving, the Hungry Eye, although I'm super excited for the bookstore to be coming in. I'd say, number one, support them, as much as you can. Make that conscious choice not to just click a button and buy on Amazon, but to think, does Jack have it over at the hardware store, or does somebody else have what you want? And chat with them a little bit. You'd be amazed. You'll go in there. You'll be talking to somebody at Blackstone's. You'll be talking to Jennifer at Blackstone's, and all of a sudden she'll be introducing to you to somebody who actually lives, down the street from you or something like that. So I think that our shop owners and the people who work in the shops are a really important part of our small community. And not only do I encourage you to support them, but I encourage you, if you're feeling a little bit like, oh, I really just want to go see somebody, go visit, go visit one of the stores, treat yourself to something from one of the little shops, and talk to the shop owners. They're going to really appreciate it. And that's really, I think, something very special about our neighborhood, and another way to be connected.
I've got something to add just real quickly. I've been in Beacon Hill 5 years, and I joined the community boathouse for the first time this past season. And I joined because I thought I wanted to go kayaking every day and get exercise. But as I started going almost every day, every other day, I decided I wanted to learn how to sail. And it's a great community of people. They're all very willing to help. It's just a wonderful place to go hang and a beautiful place to watch the sunset. So that's another kind of hidden gem of the neighborhood, I think, where you can meet a real community of people as well.
That's definitely on my bucket list. For
highly
sure.
recommend.
Maybe I'll get motivated and I'll do that this summer. I also think going on walks. If you say to somebody, if you see a neighbor or something like that, and say, hey, would you like to catch up? Would you like to go for a walk? What's nice about walking is it can become a short walk, or it can become a longer walk. I walked with I thought I was doing what I thought was a short walk with business friend who lives in Back Bay, and 4 hours later we were sitting and we were having coffee and we were catching up on life in general. And boy, did that feel good. And that just started with a walk. I think a simple walk in our beautiful neighborhood, in our beautiful community is terrific. My husband, we have a little dog. My husband goes into these shops and, visits everybody there. You'll see a lot of people with dogs in the neighborhood for sure. You don't have to think big. You can think small. You can think about one person at a time, not like I said earlier, 20 or 50 people. But the Beacon Hill Women's Forum and these other organizers are fantastic.
Thank you.
Gracie, we can also connect you with some other young professionals. There's a couple people on here tonight that I know would be open to meeting a new friend. And we also have coffees on Friday that I can add you to that list. And you'll look up and all of a sudden you'll know everybody. So lots of great advice. I do sometimes go for a walk if I'm feeling a little down, and you just walk down Charles Street and like Shayne said, walk in and say hi to people and you forget what you were feeling down about, and all of a sudden they know you and it becomes a friend. So
yeah, somebody's mentioning the sevens. That's great. I don't know what's going to happen with Starbucks, but I know when my daughter was younger, I felt like I was in Starbucks, the big Starbucks as we call it, versus the little Starbucks, which has been shuttered for longer. I was always meeting another parent there. It seemed like I was at that Starbucks for a portion of my life almost every day, just meeting somebody for coffee. And hopefully we'll start to see that happen again. Tate has that nice open space where you can sit outdoors, or again you can grab coffee and go over to the Boston Common or something like that. Lots of different things. We're kind of lucky that we can do that here in the neighborhood and just walk there and not have to get in a car.
well, while people aren't talking, you're provoking a lot of conversation in the chat. So everything you're saying is already coming to fruition. So
that's terrific. Again, as I keep hearing about all these things that the Beacon Hill Women's Forum does and how you appeal to people at all different stages in their lives and what they're doing, I think that's fantastic. And that's really the heart of what we're talking about.
well, people are asking about the coffees. You can message me or just send an email to the forum inbox, and I try to check it every day, and I'll add you to the list. But it's just every Friday at 10 o'clock at the Liberty, top of the escalator. We usually sit to the right of the concierge desk, but sometimes, we have to move around, and it's worked out well because it's got so much oxygen. It's such a big place. It's almost like being outside. You're just in a jail, but a renovated jail. Well, a beautiful hotel. But we would love to have everyone, if you want your name added, we'll throw it in there. It's not formal. Lisa Purcell and I try to be there, but if we can't, other people can meet up too. And Shayne, we would love to have you.
I'll been juggling a lot. But I will definitely do that. And I have to second the Liberty Hotel as a place to meet up if you're just tired of being in your house. Their lobby is amazing, and I've never been. I've never had somebody come to me and say to me, "Oh, you have to leave" or something like that. They seem to be really very kind, and they have a lot of. Not only is it open air, but they have a lot of kind of quieter sitting places for 2 or 3 people. If you haven't been there, definitely stop by. And they have a couple of fantastic restaurants as well, which is super exciting. So I think they're a great asset. And then they have what's it called in the summertime? Who else is a dog owner? Where they have for the dogs used to be on Mondays.
Happy hour? No.
Yappy hour or Yappier hour. If you don't know about that, Google it, see if you can find it. We've taken our pups there, and it can get really, really busy, or it used to get really busy. But again, another fantastic way to connect is to go over to Yappier Hour.
Yeah, borrow a pet. If you don't have a dog, somebody has a dog. They want to get it out of the house.
Yes, yeah. To borrow a friend's dog, take him for a walk. Trust me, the dog owner is going to be happy to let you do that. Go.
All right. Well, unless anybody else wants to jump in, I think it's a wrap. Really great evening. Thank you so much. Your great idea, ordering the tea, giving us this information about this really interesting, I wrote it down, extra specialties. You know, it's Shayne, you just keep on giving. So we
Well,
appreciate
thank you.
it.
Thanks again to Cindy for inviting me and everybody at the Beacon Hill Women's Forum. What a phenomenal group with so many different opportunities. I hope to get more involved as my life starts to shift in the upcoming years. So thanks to all of you. It was so nice. It's so nice seeing all your smiling faces. It's been really terrific. Thank you.
Thank you. And just before you shut it down, Amy, everybody take a quick look down the chat because some people want to, looks like get together at the Sevens. Erica, who manages Sarah Campbell, said she'd love to have people stop by and say hi. So people are already kind of extending themselves. So wonderful evening. Thank you so much. And we'll keep trying to reach out to everybody, but reach out to us too. The email's open and we want to be here for everyone. So thank you. Yay.
Thank you.
Good night. Take care. Stay safe.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye, guys.